Ladies and gentlemen, today it is very important to maintain a minute silence for the heroes and heroines, the martyrs whose blood and sweats are the foundation of the freedoms we today enjoy. 1 minute silence, please. Thank you. And I would like to begin by saying that yesterday, millions of Nigerians who have lost comfort in their homes as a result of the scourge of pervasive poverty, starvation, and hunger actually trooped out en masse across different states of the Federation to seek refuge in the streets. We, the oppressed people of the world, and Nigeria in particular, in our sacred assemblies, not only commemorated our heroic struggles, but also protested the economic pandemic that threatens our livelihood. However, we must realize that it is never enough to commemorate the heroics of the past. But it is also very important, it is of revolutionary importance to inaugurate new fronts and strategies to preserve the glories and victories of the past, so as to assure a greater future. To this end, while we protested and commemorated June 12th, a celestial inspiration descended onto us to inaugurate drinking tea with the pen. And this is going to be a program programmed to look back, to learn from the past, and stand on the shoulders of giants before us, so that we can envision a better now and the best future. And to achieve this, we shall be looking at ideas penned in books, editorials, columns, and other veritable platforms, choking the myth while ventilating ventilating and photosynthesizing the truth in tandem with the realities of our time. So, in order to kickstart this important revolutionary move, as I said earlier on, we will be looking into editorials. And the first editorial I'm going to be looking at today will be coming from the Punch newspaper. And that is an editorial titled June 12th, Democracy in Retreat, 31 years after. Also, we will be considering an editorial from the Vanguard newspaper, which title is Dour Democracy Day. Looking at a couple of Nigerian newspapers, these two editorials have been considered to be revolutionary and radical in their composition, and also in tandem with the problems on ground. So from the Punch newspaper, we are going to be bringing out excerpts from that editorial. As you all know, this is from a paid page, so I'm not going to be able to read everything Technically, I believe that is not appropriate, but as I said, I'm going to be bringing out excerpts. And the first paragraph, excerpt from there says, 31 years after the landmark presidential election, widely regarded as the freest and fairest in Nigeria's history, citizens are in a deeper mess than they found themselves under military rule in 1993. In the past few years, they have been plunged into abject misery. The democratic ethos of freedom, equality, and inclusion has been usurped by despair and acute poverty and crushing hopelessness. This is the 6th anniversary, but look, we're not going to be going into that. But the most important thing that excerpt is talking about is talking about what is very obvious, that in spite of the euphoria with which democracy was welcomed in 1993, which is 31 years ago, Nigerians have not just been disappointed, but also disillusioned with the Nigerian democracy. It goes on to say that the present and the future are filled with doom because on many fronts, democracy is in retreat. It also says Nigeria surpassed India as the world's poverty capital with 86.7 million citizens, with democracy delivering practically nothing for the majority. The National Bureau of Statistics declared 133 million as multi-dimensionally poor in 2022. And the World Bank added 7 million to the poverty hole because of the cancellation of the petrol subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the measure of the Naira rates in mid-2023. And that editorial goes on to say that there is no benefit or relief anywhere. The mass poverty is aggravated by insecurity. Nowhere and nobody is safe. So, the Advocacy Center for Development Charity calculated that 2,544 security agents were slaughtered from 2019 to 2023 under Buhari. And the Global Terrorism Index 2023 lists Nigeria as the 8th most terrorized country in the world. In the first quarter of 2024, 2,583 persons were massacred by Islamic terrorists, bandits, kidnappers, separatists, and Fulani herdsmen. Insecurity is pushing Nigeria to the edge of implosion. Bandits control territories in the northwest and north central, like Boko Haram and ISWAP in the northeast. So it goes on to say that the weird political totem called Nigeria is falling apart. It benefits only a few politicians, their lackeys, and their families. It goes on to say that its conclusion goes on to say that therefore the first step is to discontinue the fundamentally flawed 1999 Constitution and to create a truly federal and people's document. So, ladies and gentlemen, here the editorials goes on to say that Nigeria is a natural federation It must end its pseudo federalism to fulfill its potential. Fiscal federalism, states, police, and a proper market economy with our sensible leitmotifs. So it concludes by saying the most important thing here, which says ultimately the fate of Africa's largest populations lie with the people. Dismissing ethnic divisions and religious sentiments, they should rise and challenge the buccaneering leadership making a mess of democracy and their lives. See, um, these days in our time, it has become very scarce and rare to see radio stations, TV stations, newspapers, and editorials saying something as direct, revolutionary, and radical as this. And I want us to take note of that conclusion, which is the last paragraph, talking about ultimately the fate of Nigeria, which is Africa's largest populations, lie with the people, dismissing ethnic divisions and religious sentiments, which actually means that if we truly love and want to continue with that political um, entity called Nigeria, we must dismiss ethnic division. And that is the poor, oppressed people. We must we must do away with religious sentiments, religious division, ethnic division, and be united by the fact that we, the oppressed people. So we should rise and challenge the buccaneering leadership making a mess of democracy and our lives. And the truth about that is that it is not just the lives of we, the oppressed people, that is in jeopardy. The lives of our children, the lives of the next generation is also in jeopardy. So, the greatest generational assignment for us that we must not abandon is to do away with ethnic and religious sentiments and rally around these generational and revolutionary assignments to 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 according to that editorial challenge the buccaneering leadership. They are nothing but political buccaneers, and that also is a um is a further testimony to what I've said in some of my videos, that look, this is not a government, this is a gang, this is a gangment. So this, in the truest sense of the word, the of the word, does not deserve to be called a government, because a government is responsible for governance, and none of us can confidently say, irrespective of your um um political political leaning, that we have governance. No, what we have is a money heist. So we must take inspiration from these um, from this editorial, and I will strongly recommend that you go and read this for yourself. So, in order to not take much of our time, we will also be looking at the editorial of the Vanguard newspaper. So, that was dated June 12th, entitled "Dour Democracy." So the definition of dour is something that um that is bad. So that is not good. So Dour Democracy Day. So I'm going to be bringing out excerpts from that editorials. It says, for the first time in Nigeria's history, we have practiced unbroken democracy for quarter a century. So, but the most important line that I'm trying to bring out here is it says that we fought for democracy, convinced that it was the best form of government. Unlike the military rule, which ruled with impunity and no terminal date, and, except when they choose to go, a democratic model of governance features elections through which the people supposedly choose and replace their leaders. It goes on to say that democracy was also associated with many dividends for the people, and part of this is respect for civil liberties, where the processes of the law and the constitution slash human rights of the citizens are upheld. So it goes on to say in this very critical and revolutionary and rhetorical lines that 24 years down the line, can we say we are living our democracy dream? And the obvious answer there is no. It says we should strive not to make Nigerians cast envious glances at West African countries, um, countries that have returned to military rule. It says it also goes on to say that never in any previous period have Nigerians been subjected to the current level of hardship and extreme hunger arising from harsh government policies. Insecurity has overwhelmed the nation. Our security architecture has proved incapable of securing the country and protecting its people. Politicians live large on public resources while the people are mercilessly saddled with excruciating burdens of economic reforms. So it concludes here by saying that many who were in the trenches for our democracy 30 years ago are now in government, perpetrating impunities, corruption, and cluelessness worse than the military ever did, ever even dared to. So, I would recommend that we go to the Vanguard and go to the Punch and read their respective editorials for June 12th. So now we are going to go to the minimum wage issue and the NLC strike that is going on right now. I had seen a I seen an article, and I think it was in the Punch, and that was something said by the what's it called, former publicity secretary of the Social Democratic Party, where he was talking about the minimum wage. I do not have that article in front of me, but I need a few seconds to find it. Hold on, please. So, so as I was saying, um, agricultural output is key, and unfortunately, in I was recently in Nigeria, and it was very painful, and it was a disheartening sight to continue to see that in this century, in our time, we still have Nigerians practicing farming with Stone Age implements, doing farming with um, um, cutlass and cutlasses and hoes. So in that kind of situation where we have population growth that is faster than agricultural outputs, we are definitely going to continue to have inflation, and labor will labor will continue to have an entitlement to 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 demand increased minimum wage. So we are not even talking about living wage yet. We are still just talking um about minimum wage, starvation wage, which is in actual word a slave wage. So government has not shown any intention or shown us a decisive plan that that they do have to to strengthen the agriculture sector. It is a slap on human civilization that in this age, which is supposed to be a jet age, 80% of Nigerian farmers are still practicing farming with Stone Age tools, cutlass and hoes. And and when we have population growth, uh, um, population growth is faster than agricultural outputs, most definitely we are going to have scarcity of food crops. And that results automatically to inflation. And instead of the governments drawing up plans, showing us that they have plans to 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 solve these problems, they think they can curb inflation by withdrawing money from circulation. So all politicians have constituted themselves into central banks. So they actually mop up cash from the economy by by directing it into their private accounts. Stealing. Stealing is their economic tool. So 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 um we're not going to be dwelling on that, but that is something that is worth talking about every day, every time. And until government shows that they have a patriotic plan to strengthen the economic trinities of electricity, security, and agriculture, then they do not have the national interest at heart. So if they are talking about anything aside from that, just you should just know that no matter how sweet that is, it remains empty talk. Thank you for your time. God bless you. Ahmed Odunton, once again.